Our thanks to Chris, and let's continue the conversation and welcome Jinann Bitar, Director of Higher Education Research and Data Analytics at the Education Trust. What does acceptance of the classic learning test by Florida's public institutions mean for the future of college assessment? Do you think this is going to be just, it's happening in Florida and that's it, or will it really have a ripple effect here?
Well, thanks for having me today. I think the big thing to remember is this isn't a larger conversation around the use of assessments and testing for college admissions. So while I think this is another name in the game, this is hardly the beginning of the conversation about the use of these tools. And so Florida's kicking things off, and it will really, I'm certainly not a fortune teller, so I can't say how much further it will grow.
Yeah. Well, in May, Florida Governor DeSantis had signed a bill into law that makes students eligible to earn Bright Future scholarships with the scores of the classic learning test. This is really big here. At some point, could there be legal challenges to this?
You know, there certainly could be. It's possible. Again, not a legal expert, but you did see that it was actually legal arguments that brought down the use of tests overall in the admissions at the University of California system schools. In fact, the Board of Regents unanimously voted to dismantle the use of that, and a lot of that was in response to legal cases.
Yeah, so a little bit of precedent perhaps here, something to keep an eye on. In April, the company that began the classic learning test had published a paper comparing its test to the SAT, and the nonprofit College Board, I think a lot of us recognize that name, looked through this and said SATs are achievement tests on high school learning and called classic learning tests a classical curriculum, saying a more rigorous joint study is needed. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think it's a fair assessment that the use of tests for admissions needs more rigorous research. We do have some substantial and robust research. In fact, recently a study came out that showed test optional admission policies in 33 public and private universities reported essentially no significant differences in the GPA those students earned or whether they completed between submitters and non-submitters of test scores. So that's a good start for some evidence. We can add CLT to the mix, but definitely we need to know more about the use of these as essentially gatekeepers to post-secondary education.
And that's such a fair point that you bring up around, folks who are deciding not to test at all and how colleges and universities are starting to accept that. Some people like that the classic learning test is inexpensive and it has a short turnaround result time, and they like that it could be easier, let's just say it. So will this cause re-examination of the SATs and ACTs, or do you think this is more going to be like whatever comes newer, basically we're just going to have to get the evidence and see how it goes?
Yeah, I think we put the cart about the horse knowing the evidence, but here's what I'll say is we've had the SAT, we've had the ACT, and different school systems or different states have chosen to prefer one or the other over time, and they could certainly do that with CLT. I think at the end of the day, it's finding the evidence that shows, one, this is a useful tool for admissions, and two, that this has some relevance to student success going forward.
Jinann Bitar, Director of Higher Education Research and Data Analytics at the Education Trust. Thank you for your insight. Appreciate it.